I've worked the oil fields in northern Alaska long enough to know that winter has a way of digging into your bones. I was stationed near Iverson Ridgeback in February 2018, running line inspections with a small crew. It's not glamorous, just steel, cold wind, and white nothingness for miles. There were 3 of us that season, me, Ray, and Lucas, and we just wrapped a brutal 10-day repair job on a segment of buried pipe west of Denlow Creek. The company bunked us in prefab shelters out near Marker 237, not far off the Casker Ice Highway. If you've never driven that road in winter, count yourself lucky. Between the whiteouts and 40 below wind chill, even monsters stay indoors. We were driving back to the bunk in Ray's reinforced pickup, chains on all 4 tires and heat blasting at full tilt. Lucas was passed out in the back seat, while I rode shotgun, helping Ray cut through the storm. It felt like we were drifting through a snow tunnel, visibility maybe 30 feet at best. Headlights were useless. About 2 hours into the drive, Ray slammed the brakes. Lucas jolted awake, cursing. I leaned forward. Out in the storm, barely visible, someone was walking along the edge of the road. No hazard lights, no vehicle, just this lone figure, half-hunched, wearing a military-style parka with fur around the hood. He looked half dead. We pulled over. Ray grabbed his coat. You don't leave anyone behind in a storm like that. Wind like knives. Cold like death. As we approached, I noticed something off. The way this guy walked, stiff, mechanical. Not staggering like someone freezing to death, but smooth, rhythmic. Like he was following a path only he could see. Ray honked. Nothing. No glance. No reaction. Lucas stepped forward and shouted, but the man kept walking. No shiver, no breath, just forward motion. Ray reached out, grabbed his shoulder, and the man turned. His skin was paper white, no color in his cheeks. His eyes were glazed over, cloudy gray like the sky before a bad freeze. Lips moving non-stop, silent, constant, repeating a number. 237, 237, 237. Lucas paled. Ray whispered, "That's not just frostbite." And I knew, deep in my gut, something about this wasn't human. There was no choice. We couldn't leave him, not without reporting a corpse later. So the 3 of us helped him into the truck. He didn't resist. He didn't speak. He didn't even blink. Lucas sat pressed against the opposite window, watching him like he might jump at any second. Ray drove, white-knuckled. I kept checking the rear view. His lips never stopped. 237, 237, 237. That's when Lucas leaned in and said, "Doesn't he look like that guy? The one from the snowmobile crash?" A few years back, he was talking about Jonah Mallory. February 2016, solo ride gone wrong. They found his snowmobile upside down near Wind Hollow Ridge. Blood on the seat. Drag marks in the snow that just stopped. No body. Search lasted 2 weeks. People moved on, but his brother worked the rigs. Said Jonah had a nasty scar from a boat propeller from when they were kids. I turned in my seat and stared. Scar. Left side. Temple to jaw. Same one. We pulled up to the company shelter just after 11 p.m. Yellow lights like a beacon in the snow. We radioed in. Nothing but static. Ray parked close and started getting ready to drag him inside. That's when the man spoke, gravelly, distant. "Can't go in. Not yet. Not until 2:47. Lucas jumped like he'd been hit. Ray just muttered, "Yeah? Well, too bad." We hauled him in, his body suddenly limp like he was waiting for us to carry him. Inside, we laid him on a bunk. Lights buzzing overhead. The heat slowly building. And then I saw his hands, fingernails yellow and curled like they hadn't been cut in months. Skin pale as snow. No smell. No sweat. No breath fog. Just cold. In his pocket was a cracked leather keychain. J. Mallory, 2015. We didn't speak after that. Power flickered once, just enough to make us all freeze. The man on the bunk opened his eyes and locked them on the wall clock. 11:30 p.m. His lips picked up speed. 2:47. 2:47. Lucas panicked. Said we needed to go, but there was nowhere to go. The snow swallowed the truck whole. It was like we were buried alive. By 2 a.m., exhaustion hit. Lucas stayed up while Ray and I caught rest. I woke up with Lucas shaking me, panic in his eyes. He's gone. We searched the whole place. Every closet, every room. Nothing. Then we heard it. 3 knocks on the metal door. 2:47 a.m. We froze. Another knock, this time from the window. Then another, on the south wall. The sound circled us, methodical, like something walking the perimeter. Ray gripped a wrench. No one can survive out there without gear, he said. But we all knew this wasn't about surviving. By morning, the storm broke. We ran for the truck. Lucas didn't make it. He'd been right behind us, and then he was just gone. No noise, no struggle, no tracks in the snow. We filed a report, left out the part about Jonah Mallory. 3 days later, they found Lucas, 15 miles from the shelter, right where Mallory's snowmobile had been discovered. Frozen, lips blue, drag marks in the snow. That just stopped. If you've ever spent a winter alone in southern Alaska, you know the quiet isn't peaceful, it's patient. Back in 2020, I was working overnight shifts at a fuel stop just outside a place called Bay Hollow. Just 2 pumps, an overpriced snack shelf, and a bathroom that only worked when it wanted to. They called it Station Ridge 237, about 20 miles from anything worth seeing. Most nights passed without much more than a few truckers topping off tanks, some pipeline guys grabbing coffee, and the occasional lost tourist with eyes full of regret. I was in college at the time, working double shifts to pay tuition. The owner, a guy named Ellis Ward, paid cash and didn't ask questions. I liked that. Most nights it was just me and the hum of the freezer lights. The clock barely moved. But that changed on my 3rd Wednesday shift. It was just past 2 a.m. when a set of headlights cut through the falling snow. A blue pickup, old, rust-bitten, rolled up to pump 2. The truck idled, engine chugging against the cold. But the driver didn't get out, didn't reach for the pump, didn't even turn off the engine. He just sat there. 10 minutes passed. I was about to throw on my jacket to check on him when the truck slowly reversed, turned back into the storm, and vanished like it had never been there. Weird, but not the weirdest thing I'd seen. The next Wednesday, I was back. Another storm rolling in. And right on time, 2 a.m. sharp, that same blue truck rolled in and stopped at the exact same pump. Same rust. Same snow-blasted windshield. Same driver, sitting rigid, staring straight ahead, hands locked at 10 and 2. I leaned in toward the security monitor. The footage was fuzzy, but something about his posture made my stomach twist. Like he wasn't just still, he was too still. Like someone had paused him mid-movement. 15 minutes ticked by. Then, as I stepped toward the front door to go outside, the truck reversed and vanished again. Swallowed by the snow, but not before I saw his face. The hood on his jacket dropped for just a moment as the truck angled into the turn, just long enough for the cameras to catch it. And what I saw stopped me cold. Sunken eyes, skin like aged paper, and a mouth set in an expression that didn't look angry or sad. It looked emptied, like someone had scooped everything human out. I couldn't sleep that morning, couldn't shake the image of that face. So I went looking. Ellis kept decades of logbooks in a storage cabinet behind the break room. Old school guy, liked writing everything by hand. Fuel logs, delivery schedules, incident notes going back to the 90s. I started flipping through, and there it was. December 1994, scribbled on a coffee-stained page. 2:05 a.m. Abandoned blue trucks spotted again at Pump 2. No driver exit. Weather, blizzard. I found dozens more entries. All on Wednesdays. All in the middle of snowstorms. All between 2 o'clock and 2:15 a.m. Every time. The same truck, same pump, same silence. I dug deeper. In a dusty file folder labeled Bay Hollow, Incident Reports, I found a copy of a missing persons report from 1992. A miner named Warren Hedicott had disappeared during a blizzard, last seen driving home from a site up near the ridge. He never made it. They searched for days. Never found the truck. Never found the body. But there was a photo, grainy, black and white, of Warren posing beside his 1988 Silverado. Same model, same color, same dead face. Someone had run a plate check on the truck 2 years before I found that folder. It came back still registered to Hedicott. Never recovered. Never declared totaled. That was the night I stopped thinking it was just weird. That was the night I realized something was coming back. And not just Warren. In the files were more clippings. For other people vanished along the same stretch of highway, always on stormy Wednesday nights. Their names weren't in the system anymore. But their timelines all pointed to one place. Pump 2, 2 a.m., midwinter. I don't know why I didn't quit. Maybe I needed answers. Maybe it was guilt, or just stubborn fear. The next Wednesday, skies were clear. Stars visible through the frost on the windows. I started to hope maybe the pattern had broken. But by 1:45 a.m., clouds rolled in fast. Wind picked up. Snow started falling like it had a grudge. By 1:58, visibility was gone. And then those headlights. That same blue truck glided into Pump 2 like it had never left. Every movement was perfect. Mechanical. Like he was following instructions. This time I was ready. I grabbed a flashlight and a crowbar, threw on my coat, and stepped into the storm. Cold slammed into my chest. The truck idled ahead, exhaust curling into the night. The snow around it wasn't falling right. It avoided the truck, like something was repelling it, leaving a perfect ring of untouched ground around the vehicle. I walked to the driver's side window. My flashlight beam landed on his face. Closer this time. Warren's skin looked stretched thin, parchment over bone. His mouth hung slightly open, like he was still trying to say something. His hands never moved. I knocked on the glass. Everything went dark. The station, the pumps, my flashlight, all of it dead. Behind me, the truck door creaked open. I turned, swinging the crowbar blindly, saw nothing. Just black. Then, behind the station's front window, a pale glow flickered on, and Warren was inside. I'd locked that door before I left, but there he was, staring out. His hands pressed to the glass, frost spreading from his fingers in web-like veins. Then more faces appeared beside him, 3 others, each one hollow-eyed, pale, wearing old snow gear. I recognized the descriptions from the reports. Their mouths moved in sync, whispering something I couldn't hear through the glass. And then the frost spelled it out across the window. Help US find the way. The truck behind me revved its engine. Headlights flashed in a pattern, almost like Morse code. I ran. Through the back entrance, through the pitch-black storage room, heart pounding so hard I thought it would crack my ribs. I slammed the deadbolt behind me. And everything inside was normal. No glow, no frost, no faces. Just the sound of the truck still idling outside, engine smooth, steady. The clock on the wall read 2:47 a.m. But when I checked my phone, only 10 minutes had passed. Police found nothing. No truck, no footprints but mine, no frost. I left Bay Hollow the next morning and never looked back. But sometimes, during deep winter storms, I still see frost form on my windows in that same branching pattern. And I hear that same rhythm in the hum of distant engines. Looking, waiting, for someone to finish the route. My dad and I had talked about this hunting trip for months, maybe years. A final push into the wild before the season ended, just the two of us. I was 28, fresh into an IT consulting job in Juneau, and barely saw him anymore. He was pushing 60, one of those hard old Alaskans who still cut firewood by hand and wore a .44 like a wristwatch. We headed out to Alder Ridge, about 4 hours past Glen Haven, down a logging road that barely existed anymore. He'd hunted there a dozen times, said it was thick with moose. No signal, no lights, just frost-bitten trees and miles of snow. It was the most disconnected I'd been in years, and honestly, that felt like a gift. We took his beat-up Chevy, rifles slung in the cab, and a week's worth of gear in the bed. The farther we drove, the quieter the world got. The snow fell heavier, the trees grew tighter, and even the wind seemed afraid to make noise. By the time we reached the cabin, more like a glorified shed. The sun had disappeared behind a gray curtain. We unpacked quickly, set up the propane heater, and made a quick dinner. Everything felt calm, until night fell. Around midnight, I stepped outside to take a leak. The snow was soft, falling slow, and the air so cold it stung my lungs. I zipped up, turned back to the cabin, and stopped. There were footprints. Not ours. Not animal. They came from the tree line and circled the cabin once, never breaking stride. Deep, human-looking prints. No tread pattern, no stagger. Just a long, perfect ring. I called for my dad. He came out with a flashlight and followed the trail around the building. When we returned to the front, the prints stopped. Dead. No continuation into the trees. Nothing. Just ended. My dad didn't say much. Just muttered something about old ground playing tricks and went back inside. I couldn't sleep. The next morning, he was already out scouting before sunrise. Left a note and half a pot of coffee. I stayed behind to check the trail Can we set up on the ridge. It was a newer model, motion activated with night vision. I fast-forwarded through hours of snow, wind, and shifting trees. And then, around 2:40 a.m., I saw it. A figure. No coat. No gear. Just a man in jeans and a flannel shirt, walking barefoot through snow like it wasn't even there. He never looked at the camera. Just kept walking, slow and steady, toward the cabin, then vanished from frame. No tracks. No heat distortion. Just gone. When my dad came back around noon, I told him everything. He didn't laugh, didn't argue, just nodded once and said, "You saw him too." I pressed him, and eventually he broke. 3 years ago, one of his buddies had gone missing out here. Same region, same week of the year. His truck was found still warm on the trailhead, but no gear, no prints, no sign of him. Search and rescue combed the area for a week. Nothing. That's when my dad stopped hunting Alder Ridge. Said it gave him a wrong feeling, but he'd wanted one last go, to face whatever had been haunting him since that trip. I asked why he brought me if he thought something was out here. He looked at me, eyes heavy, because if it comes again, I need someone else to see it. I need to know it's real. That night, we stayed up together. Loaded rifles. Lights on. Fire burning low. At 2:47 a.m., the generator died. No wind. No sound. Just darkness. Then footsteps on the porch. Slow. Wet. Heavy. A knock at the door that wasn't a knock. More like bone tapping against wood. We didn't move. Didn't breathe. The door handle turned once. Then silence. I thought that was the worst of it. I was wrong. We didn't speak during the hike back. My dad's usual trail chatter was gone. Every few minutes he'd stop, not to rest, but to listen. His eyes scanned the tree line like he expected something to burst through at any second. Half an hour in, I glanced over my shoulder. There were 3 sets of footprints in the snow. We hadn't passed anyone. Nobody had joined us. And these prints, they weren't side by side with ours. They followed behind, single file, just a half step off from mine. I told my dad. He looked back once, then lowered his head. I asked him again if he knew what this was. He muttered, "It's the same thing that took Mark, his hunting partner, the one who vanished 3 years ago." He went on to say something he hadn't before, that Mark had mentioned hearing things outside the cabin at night. Not animals, not wind, whispers, bare feet crunching snow, and once, the creak of a cabin door opening when it should have been locked. I asked him why we didn't leave last night, why we waited till morning. His answer? Because I don't think we were allowed to. By the time we reached the trailhead, something felt wrong with the air. Thinner, quieter. I clicked the truck fob. Nothing. No beep. No flash of lights. When we got closer, we saw why. The truck doors were open. Not forced. Just hanging wide, like someone had been inside and left in a hurry. The snow around the truck was untouched. No prints. No tire tracks. Just that same smooth surface we'd seen circling the cabin. Inside the cab, our gear was still there. Nothing missing. Except for a photo. A picture I kept taped to the dash. Me and Dad, fishing when I was 12, was gone. Just peeled away. In its place, tucked into the sun visor, was something neither of us had ever seen. A faded Polaroid, warped from moisture, showing 2 men standing in front of the same cabin we'd just fled. One of them was my father, maybe 25 years younger. The other wasn't anyone I recognized. My dad turned white. "That's not possible," he said. I've never posed for this." On the back, written in faint pencil, were 3 words. He walked still. We left. No questions. No second looks. Drove until the radio picked up signal and my hand stopped shaking. A week later, I had the photo analyzed. No signs of digital forgery. Developed sometime in the early 1990s. The forest in the background looked younger, less overgrown, but it was the same place. I tried burning the Polaroid once. Lit it on the stove in my apartment. The flame died. Twice. I don't know what's out in Alder Ridge. I don't think it's a ghost. It's something colder. Something older. Something that remembers. Sometimes at night, I wake up thinking I heard the knock. That bone-tapping knock. Sometimes I find snow on my doorstep when it hasn't snowed in weeks. And once, just once, I found a bare footprint in the hallway outside my apartment. I moved the next day. I don't talk to my dad about the ridge. But every year, when October comes, he calls me without fail. And we sit in silence for a moment before he says the same thing every time. He's still out there. And he doesn't like to be forgotten.